When I first came into CrossFit, and then weightlifting, I was really from an unathletic background. I'd never been able to do anything and I was super overweight. So when I found movements that I enjoyed and they weren't too hard for me to start learning, it was really motivating to keep continuing with it. And I especially loved the snatch, from day one, really loved it, yeah. When I started coaching, I realized how little I actually knew and I needed to go and get specific coaching to improve my knowledge for it. And I really admired the Chinese weightlifting team at the time. You had Shi Jiong, you had Liao Hui, Tian Tao and Lu Jiajun, and there were all these incredible records being broken all the time. And I was really motivated to try and learn that school system. So I decided, to reach out to somebody. Then we put on a training camp and I went over and trained. I did 2 separate camps in China, and that was probably the best system I've been a part of. So I went over there, recorded every set I did, took notes, and spent the next 6 months to try and implement my learnings in my own training and then as I coached others. After that, I reached out to someone in Estonia. So I actually had an Estonian boy named Rado come and train at Origins with Michael, and he told me about his friend Marciem, and then I reached out to him on Instagram and someone else actually connected me with him as well. So it just all kind of fell into place so I could go to Estonia and train. And that was really cool because it was my first sort of introduction into the Soviet system for weightlifting. Everything was very much more powerful, explosive stomping and not so much smooth balance technique, but it was really hard, heavy training all the time. And then from there, I went to Russia and I went and trained with Vladislav Lukanen. And I did a month over in Sochi, basically training, 9 sessions a week and putting in a lot of time. But it was great because from every system I've been a part of, I've been able to learn and bring that knowledge back and share it with my clients and kind of develop my own coaching practice from there. I would say that the way I teach now is a very smooth and long ground contact time sort of pulling technique, which is very much in line with the Chinese system. I try and take the drills and stuff I learned from each nation, but obviously it's tools I can pull upon for different technique floors or whatever, depending on the individual that I'm coaching. One thing I'm really big on though is not trying to rush to get weight up. In China, these people are starting at 6 years old or earlier, using a broomstick for ages, doing thousands of reps and refining technique always. They obviously pick a population that's already powerful and strong and coordinated, but then the goal is always technique because the strength can come later. If you're getting someone really technically sound and then they're developing into their late teens, early adulthood, they're going to get strong as a result anyway. And I think that's the best approach. Technique bias from the start, people are going to get less injured, they're going to be able to perform their working sets at higher percentages and stuff as a result, and then you tend to build better athletes as a result of that. When I was taking that knowledge I've learned and trying to implement it on myself, that meant I understood it better before I tried to then deliver it to others. So, I brought my notes back and all the videos and I'd find the notes that I had this flaw, find the same video, how did the coach correct that? And then I would go and try and implement that in my training if I had this fault show up. And what I realized is that I wasn't that consistent with my technique back then. So, in one set I might have fault X and then in another set fault Y. So I had to try and get my technique really consistent and I had to implement everything I learned. And it meant I spent a lot of time doing low percentages and trying to really dial in what I learned. And my technique developed so much because of that. Whereas before I might miss reps all the time. It was a bit inconsistent and quite volatile. Now it's really smooth and I tend to perform a lot better in my sets, So I think in order to help something grow and develop, you need to remove barriers. So the barriers to entry for most kids' sports are you have to pay for a term up front, you have to buy all the equipment before they start, you have to commit to a certain amount of weekend games or something like this. And often what happens is there's a resentment sort of cycle building. So the parents are we paid for a whole term, you have to go. The kids are I don't want to go, but they get forced to. So it just kind of perpetuates into this cycle. Obviously some kids really love it and they take to it well, but I never wanted there to be an obligation for people to come. I wanted the kids who can come to have no barriers to it. That's why I provide the training, the shoes, the straps. And I wanted there to be motivated kids to want to show up every week. So by not charging the parents, they're not going to go, you have to go. They're not going to force them into anything they're uncomfortable doing. But then all I ask in return is that they show up to training and give it their best, probably coaching kids into competition has been really up there. And like, I've had many moments where I've cried because of the results they've got. But in particular, like one girl I coach named Elira, she's probably the most influential kid on me. So like, I was ready to, for a while, step away from coaching because, you know, the long working times, and I was thinking about going FIFO just because I didn't know what to do with my career. And I started coaching these kids for free, and then saw how dedicated she was, how hard she trained, and how much she wanted to push. She would rock up to training and just give it her all every session. And like, yeah, she kind of saved me from giving that up, I think. She goes into competitions, does a great job. She like is very talented, very hardworking, and yeah, really inspires me to be better, I must say. And there's been like a few kids that have really made me love the role of coach again. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I'd probably wish I had started earlier. So if I was talking to myself at a younger age, I would be saying, you know, catch the bus down to Midland, go straight to PCYC and train with Michael from, I don't know, 12 years old or something. I really wish I had discovered weightlifting earlier, and I would have loved to have met Michael Pileggi earlier because he's been such a big impact in my life. I think like, sometimes a coach or a person will come into your life, and even though they may not know you, they've got the best intentions and it feels like they would do anything for you, and he's been that for me. In all honesty, like, I wouldn't be nearly as good at coaching or what I do without his influence. So I credit a lot to him. Yeah, so I want to grow the pool of kids that I coach. What I would love to do is, you know, be able to put on more seminars in education and then have the kids attend it. So we had Alexi Tarokti come earlier in the year, and I was able to have 2 of the kids I coach attend that whole weekend seminar, and the way he cared for them and looked after them was really cool. So I think getting the kids that I coach to also be around other influential coaches and like quite good lifters themselves, that would be a great opportunity for them to see what's possible in the sport. Because, you know, when you get out of that state and national level, there's a whole world of weightlifting out there, and it would be great to be able to take a kid from, you know, just competing in WA to then, you know, maybe Uzbekistan or China or something. It'd be so incredible. So I would love to build a group of kids that train together hard and push each other and hopefully get to that point. But also, if they're not motivated to compete, just to train, put in the work, and then develop themselves so that they can go into any other sport or any facet of life and do a good job. Yeah, I believe bringing people over to run seminars and do the education work here is going to be very important for the gym, because if we become a hub where people from other gyms can come and learn and develop their own skills by us hosting seminars or doing our own, you know, coaching workshops or whatever in the future, that's going to allow, one, the presence of the gym to grow, but it's going to allow other people to grow their craft and take that to their own gym, or for them to become better trainers themselves or athletes. So I love the idea of that. If we're talking athletes, I'd really love to bring over Tien Tao. He was one of the weightlifters I really looked up to. He's probably got the best clean in the world, like would always clean above world records. It's just whether he could make the jerk, and everyone calls him Tien Heart Attack Tao because he would often just go for records and he would miss lifts up until he made that world record lift. I think bringing over someone like that who was more about trying to win and that sort of headspace you have to be in, and coming in after missing 2 lifts at the Olympics and then being able to put a lift up on the 3rd, like that's an incredible feat. I think that sort of headspace is a winner's mindset, and it's a very hard thing to teach or to just to have. Most people don't just have a winner's mindset, you know. I think that would be really cool. I look up to most of the Chinese athletes at a high level because I went into that system and saw them train, and they usually get sent over to competitions to gold medal, nothing else.